All right. Good evening, everyone. My name's Phil Gallagher, and I run Thraben University, a site dedicated to legacy, death, and taxes, and that is indeed what we are going to be playing today. We're going to be playing with my deck list from SCG Baltimore, which you can see by clicking on the Cardboard Live extension on your screen. And kind of speaking of that, I had a couple of people ask me some questions about Cardboard Live, and I just want to take a minute or two to go ahead and field those. So I'm going to do something a little bit awkward here, and I'm going to go ahead and drag my chat on screen here, and we might get some weird like picture-in-picture stuff going on here for a second, so that I can talk about what's going on here. How is this going to look? Is this just going to be like infinite windows sorts of things? This is just going to be infinite windows sorts of things. All right, let me figure out a different way to do this. So, when the Cardboard Live extension is active, you can go ahead and at any time click on an extension on the left-hand side of the screen in order to go and see something that looks like this. Now, this is obviously just a snippet of it. Oh, I can use Jarvis's stream? Jarvis is live with it? Okay, that's even better. Okay, so here is Jarvis's stream, and Jarvis is also using Cardboard Live. If we click on the Cardboard Live extension right here, we can take a look at Jarvis's deck list. At any time, I can scroll over one of these cards, and then the image of that card will go ahead and appear. So I can do this for any of the main deck cards or sideboard cards. So notice that there's also sort of a set of color options here. These are the colors that are in this deck. Now, High Tide is a mono blue deck, but you can see the black symbol is here. That's because Surgical Extraction is a, quote-unquote black card, even though it's kind of a colorless card here. You can also see a player profile thing here. Jarvis has not uploaded a bio at this time, but if he had, you could read a little bit about him here. So at any time, you can click the X to minimize the Cardboard Live window. You can also drag around this thing. So let's say that this was right here, say right in front of the player life counter. You can go ahead and move this somewhere else where it will be less in your way. So you can't really see the Cardboard Live extension in action from my videos or anything like that necessarily. So I wanted to make sure that people kind of saw what was going on. I got a couple of questions on Twitter that were a little difficult to answer. Does the streamer have to enter the deck list themselves? Well, why don't I show you? Here's what the back end of Cardboard Live looks like. So what I do is I go and I enter a deck list on the Cardboard Live website. And you can like manually type in whatever you want to add. You can spell and pull it up. And you can add them to your deck using these buttons or adding the quantity button here. You can also just copy and paste them from like a Word document into here. And just like on the extension itself, on the site, there are card previews, one tab for our main deck, one tab for the sideboard. So you do have to go and like enter the deck lists yourselves, yes, but it's very, very simple to do. It's basically just a copy and paste system. So you can also just go and have sort of a repository of decks. So I have any of these decks that I can switch to using my extension at any given time. Then the back end on Twitch, I'm going to take a screenshot of this. so I don't get that infinite window thing again. Then the back end on Twitch looks something like this, where you have a randomly generated token that you're going to need to use, and you can flip back and forth between your various decks. If you, say, wanted your High Tide deck to display as just a blue deck rather than a blue and black deck, you can also unclick that mana symbol, and you can change the starting deck list box position to be either on the left side of your screen or the right side of your screen as well. There's a bio that you can write here that you can go ahead and add some additional information about yourself as well. I've been really, really happy with this extension. It's been just super, super useful for me as a whole. There's some other cool things that you can do with this if you actually are a tournament organizer. So for example, if you have everyone digitally submit their deck lists ahead of time, you can pull deck lists directly from that and import them into the stream, and you can use the data that's generated by all of those deck lists to do things like an instantaneous metagame breakdown, which is super, super neat. So I'm really looking forward to some places, you know, major companies like, say, Star City Games or Channel Fireball, or some of the other places that are going and running some of these tournament series to really go and make a difference with these cards. Or sorry, with this extension. I think it's very, very good for coverage. So Eric, I'm not 100% sure on his entire business model at this time. At this exact moment, I believe Cardboard Live is a free option for places to use. I am not 100% sure how this will be monetized in the future, although I assume it will be once it grows a little bit and once the user base is larger. That's something that, if you want the details of how that is going to work out, you should contact Wilson Hunter. This is all his brainchild, and it's great. I absolutely love it. Yeah, so this is Cardboard Live is still kind of at the growing stage where we're sort of getting an active user base now. There are a handful of streamers like myself, ThrabenU, Julian Knob, and the Legacy Premier League more generally. We're sort of acting as the quote-unquote beta testers of this extension. And I've gotten really, really positive feedback so far from it. And I hope you all like it. As a streamer, it's made my life a lot easier, because instead of people always asking, hey, where's the deck list? Hey, where's the deck list? Hey, what does that card do? What's that random one of do? They can just like poke the screen themselves and go, oh, scroll over the card. That's what it does. It's just been really, really useful for me. And Egget, thank you very much for your continued support. 8 months is a really long time, and I do appreciate that a lot. All right, so let's get into my actual deck tech sort of feature now. This is what I played at SCG Baltimore. And Eric, thank you very much for your support as well. You are a new subscriber, and I really appreciate you throwing your Twitch Prime money my way this month. Enjoy your Thalia emote. All right, so this is what I played at SCG Baltimore. I thought this deck list was very good. I sort of had middling results at SCG Baltimore personally, but I don't want to be too results-oriented and say, because my results were bad, the deck list is bad. So let's talk about, like, sort of what has changed in this deck list since my GP Richmond deck. The main deck is identical. At GP Richmond, my deck list was only 2 cards different. Surgical Extraction and Fairy Macabre were in the deck list. At SCG Baltimore, I cut those 2 cards, leaving me with just 2 Graveyard Hate cards in my 75. And you might say, Phil, you're a madman. That's insane. And to that I say, maybe, but I think it's right. Let me explain. Right now, there is almost no combo in Legacy. And I'm not really exaggerating here. Death Shadow Delver, with its discard, counter magic, and extremely efficient threats that close the game very quickly, is really making life hard for combo. And even control decks right now, like Grixis Control, are playing like Hymn to Turok, Snapcaster, Hymn to Turok. And relatively speaking, we saw very few combo results anytime recently. So for example, the best combo finish of GP Richmond was Cyrus in like 26th or something like that, playing Ant. And I don't even know if we had very many other combo decks in, the top 32, or maybe even like all the way down to the top 64 of that event. So what does that mean for me? Well, it means that I feel safe in taking some risks that previously I wouldn't. If Red-Black Reanimator is being kept in check by Death Shadow Delver, and the large number of surgicals that are just floating around anyway, it just feels like that card is an auto 2-of include in just about every blue Legacy sideboard right now, then that means I can change my hate package a little bit. So I'm running a whopping 3 Chalice of the Voids. I'm doing this because I think Chalice of the Void is a powerful card against most combo decks that also is something that you can play against a deck like Miracles. And that matchup does need a little bit of work. So this is a card that's faster than most of my other hate against something like Ant, while also being good against control decks, and it's just fine against decks like Show and Tell as well, that rely on cantrips. Yes, I can't play it on turn 1, so I'm not the best Chalice deck. And yes, it's a little bit awkward because I do have 12 1-drops myself. But a lot of times when I'm bringing these Chalices in, 4 to 8 of these 1-drops are coming out, so it's actually sort of minimal damage to me myself. The other thing I've done is I'm playing a second Palace Jailer. So Palace Jailer is a card that, I'm not overly hot on, but the metagame is so incredibly fair right now that I'm actually confident that it's okay to play a whopping 4 4-drops in my 75. And that's a little bit weird by D&T standards. Question, does Dredge not count as a combo deck? Dredge is absolutely a combo deck. Chalice of the Void is good against most combo decks. Not all, but most. All right, Eric's question. Does running these Chalices give you a cause to reconsider Cavern of Souls? Yes, absolutely. Because, Cavern on Human can force Mom through these Chalices. But in practice, most of the time when Chalice is coming in, I'm actually boarding Mom and Swords to Plowshares out. So it's actually not as relevant as you would think. So I think I'm okay with just playing a lot of Plains. Plains is a really good card. All right, 2 questions. Can you go over the reason for 2 Caracas? Yes. Basic Plains, MVP of this deck right now. There's so much wasteland in the format between D&T, Death Shadow Delver, Loam, all that sort of stuff, that I just want my mana to be safe. Back to Basics in particular is backbreaking, and it actually makes Cavern of Souls not that good against Miracles, which is weird. 2, any reason to not run an Ancient Tomb as 24th land to help power out the Chalice on turn 1? That would absolutely be a reasonable choice, but a 1-of Ancient Tomb alongside 3 Chalice of the Void, the odds of you drawing 1 Chalice and your 1-of Ancient Tomb in your opening 7 cards is actually pretty low. So it's not necessarily worth doing unless you're also playing a bunch of 3-drops that you can cast a turn earlier. So if I was playing a bunch of things like Vryn Wingmare or Thalia Heretic Cathar that I could cast earlier, then I think that's a real consideration. Question, does this weaken you versus other Loam decks? Yep. Oh, God, yeah, you bet. I am cutting 2 pieces of Graveyard Hate. That is an active choice that I am making. So, my lands matchup, for example, is going to be worse because I have fewer answers to Loam. Question. How do you feel about either Chalice or Jailer versus Grixis Control? Okay, so in the last week, I've changed my approach to the Grixis Control matchup, and my sample size is still small, so I'm still testing it. My current Grixis Control matchup strategy is this. This matchup is so bad that you try to get free ones. So the way I'm currently approaching Grixis Control is that I want to try to mise some wins by sticking an early Jailer or an early Chalice, and let's just see if that can get me a free one. That is my current plan versus Grixis Control. Because the long games are not favoring you, which is unusual. D&T tends to be very favored as the games go long. But the Culligan Command, Snapcaster Culligan Command, Lily, Jace plan is, generally speaking, better late game than my own late game. So, my plan is, let's try to lock them out earlier. So I'm playing a higher risk, higher reward strategy. When I played against Grixis Control this weekend, I went 1-2, but one of the matches I played was a slaughter. The other one I lost, it was a relatively narrow loss, and the third one I won pretty easily with free wins from Jailer and Chalice of the Void. So, I don't have enough data yet to say, this is a good idea, but initial testing seems to indicate that it's fine. Alright, chat. So before I start my games here, does anyone have any other questions for me about this deck list? It's only 2 cards different from what I played before, but it is a much heavier commitment to this Chalice of the Void idea, and it does indicate sort of a shift that Legacy is moving more towards a mid-range format. How do you feel about flipping the Ballista and the 3rd Crusader? Well, the Ballista in the main deck is certainly not crazy. It's good against a lot of the format right now. It's pretty good against, Miracles, Grixis Control, and the Mirror. So that might be a good idea. If I was going to play the Ballista in the main deck, I'd probably only play 2 Crusaders, though. And I might just include something else in the sideboard to shore something else. To shore up, something else somewhere. I don't really know what that would be without thinking. Alright, are you worried about Loam, or do you feel okay against it? My gut says that Loam is a hard matchup. My data shows that I'm winning it most of the time. So take that for what you will. Yes, I love Brightling. We might get to the point soon where I want to put one in the sideboard or the main deck again. It depends on where, the Grixis Control versus Miracles debate ends up going. Brightling is insane versus Miracles, but relatively poor against Grixis Control on a lot of boards. So, if Miracles ends up becoming more dominant than Grixis Control, then yeah, I'll put a Brightling back in. I love that card. I want to be playing with it again. Last question. Are you still high on Gideon versus Cataclysm? Yeah, I really do still like Gideon. I think it's an important card for when you run into Death's Shadow Delver, because they're playing 3 Dread of Knights in the sideboard, and I think that it's important to have access to Gideon. I do think Cataclysm is a better card, and one of the things that I posted today on the source was that, if Miracles and Grixis Control are going to be this popular, we probably need to either look at going bigger, which is kind of what I'm doing right now with this Jailer, and to a lesser extent to this Chalice, right? I'm trying to, angle myself against them. Or the other alternative is just play cards that are cripplingly good against them, like Cataclysm. And I don't know if this Palace Jailer Chalice of the Void plan is enough, or if I will need to, start running, 3 Cataclysms or something stupid like that, and just, sweep those lands off the battlefield. Yeah, Lord Darkview, I don't know, if I want to go bigger, I don't know what the answer is. Maybe bigger's not the right word. Maybe it's going wider. And maybe it's not crazy to start playing something like Blade Splicer that always produces multiple bodies or something like that. It's not exactly like the best example because like that card still eats it to a Culligan's command, but there might be some cards like that that are worth exploring. Alright, so chat, we play Emrakul the Promise then. We can just take Vile up and put it in, right? It'll be fine. Alright, so I want to go ahead and jump into the matches now. I do want to say that this stream is sponsored in part by one of our viewers. So Ethan S. recently donated, saying, "Hey Phil, I want you to play the D&T deck list that you would play in a big open light field." Well, this is that deck list. So if you think I'm a madman and you think this Chalice game plan is all sorts of crazy, then I would replace this with 2 Graveyard Hate cards and then 1 Hate Bear of your choice. But this is what I personally would go and play against an open field right now. You know, this is where my money is where my mouth is here. This is what I took to Baltimore. I played it in 2 events. My finish was middling, but I started off really well. So I started off the day 3-0 in the open. I got 3 feature matches, 1 of which was on camera, 2 of which were off camera. Played against some pretty good players, and a lot of things just broke poorly for me. I'll probably do some sort of article or something on it. King, that's good. I enjoy that. When are we adding Endbringers, Thought-Knots, Reality Smashers, and Eldrazi Mimics to the list? So, how much are you kidding about those Thought-Knots, though? Because that's on my list of cards that, like, I really like that card. It's really powerful. And if I shove an Ancient Tomb or 2 into this deck list, you bet your ass that I'm going to shove a couple of Thought-Knots in here. Do I still have this deck list up? So this... Oh, hold on, I'm lagging. So this was a deck list that I played sort of for a donation goal, right? And this one had like Thought-Knots here, an Eldrazi Displacer, and Blade Splicers, a bunch of Recruiters, a handful of Ancient Tombs. Like, this deck list obviously is... Oh, sorry, and there's Chalices here that you can't see. This deck list here is obviously a little bit ambitious, right? But there were some good ideas here. And some of this is kind of what caused me to go and play Chalices in the sideboard of my D&T deck. Oh yeah, 100% ready to see main deck Night of Autumns, or Autumn Night, whatever it's called, out of many, many decks. Okay, sorry. So to finish my thought from before, Ethan S., thank you very much for your donation. This stream today is supported in part by you, and I really do appreciate your support. This is what I would bring to an open or other large event. If your local metagame has more graveyard decks than what are to be expected at an open level, or if you think that graveyard decks are going to be more popular than I think they are, then play a couple of Graveyard Hate cards over, you know, some of the Chalices or over that second Palace Jailer, and you'll be fine. D&T, SCG Balt. Let's battle. Hey, King, I see that you're in chat here. Are you available on Saturday mornings or early afternoons? I was thinking about doing your Mythstill stream either Saturday morning or either Monday of next week. Does one of those work better for you? Um, Jerry Thompson did one of the most impressive things that I have ever seen anyone in the Magic community do. He had such conviction behind his statement that he passed up on approximately $12,000 worth of EV to make a statement. Yes, 100% am with Jerry. Um, I I love that man as an individual. Um, and I'm just gonna like pause for a minute to just talk about how awesome Jerry is, and then I'll start my match. So essentially, when I moved to Roanoke, Jerry Thompson, renowned pro player, was someone who made me feel welcome at my local shop. I was playing one of the same decks that he was. He gave me awesome advice, walked me through some sideboarding and stuff when I needed it, offered to teach me to play other games other than just Magic. He was just like spending his Friday nights at the shop, just like doing random gunslinging with players. He's an awesome person to be around, one of my favorite people in the Magic community. No exaggeration. And for him to make a statement like that, it's huge. And I'm really looking forward to seeing some positive results and some changes occur because of what he did. All right, moving on. Let's play. My hand's awesome. We have Land, Thalia, Vial, Wasteland, Stoneforge. We've got an awesome hand. All right, so we're playing against a Delver deck. King, how does approximately 10 a.m. Eastern Time sound to you? All right. I'll make myself a note. Fire Blast? Okay, chat, I know what my opponent is playing. Do you know what my opponent is playing? Bad cards. That's about right, yeah. I believe my opponent is playing Vial Smasher the Fierce in their deck. So we're going to Vial in Thalia. If my opponent, oh, no Daze or Force. It's really tough which equipment I want to get here. I think I'm just going to get the Jitte, since it's castable next turn if my Stoneforge Mystic dies. Yes, Lord Darkview, 100%. Every time I go to Baltimore, I'm always like, all right, I have to be ready for lands. But the Lands Masters aren't even playing lands, right? I think David Long top-aided playing not lands, but Turbo Depths, right? That's where we're at right now. I'm not 100% sure why Lands isn't doing well right now, but I haven't seen it basically put up any results. Or, like, I haven't seen it out in force to any degree. Oh, sorry. I just saw that question. Phil, what can we do against Burn? I don't actually think you really do anything against Burn. I think you just play against it to the best of your ability when you get paired against it. Like, there are narrow sideboard cards you can play that really, really hose Burn, but I don't think we need a lot of those. Yeah, Chalice is pretty sweet against Burn. And I'm just going to do this right now to become the pretty princess. I think this one is very locked up. Yep. Alright, so I think I'm playing against Vile Smasher the Fierce Delver. So I probably want this, this, something approximating this. I probably don't want Revokers. I probably don't want this since I'm boarding in additional 1-drops myself. My Recruiters are probably too slow, even though they're kind of, like, good to search up my Palace Jailers, which are going to be nutty in this matchup. Lord Darkview, Cyrus's podcast, I forget what he's calling it. I think it's Top Down Legacy. Had an episode today with Anurag Das, and they were talking about the metagame more generally. And now that I think about it, one of them speculated that lands might be on the downswing due to the increase of surgical extraction, and lands is just taking some splash damage because of that. Oh, Gab Jab, if you are playing Applejacks, that deck really poops on D&T. It's super fun. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and keep this hand. Hey JD, I'm glad you enjoyed the coverage. Yeah, I got Rudy pretty good. I actually wasn't 100% sure that he was actually Miracles that entire match. I thought he might have been like some blue-white or Esper value deck. I couldn't actually tell. Like, I never saw a Terminus from him in the entire set. So I had 3 feature matches in a row. My one with Rudy was the backup feature match, so we only got game 3 on camera. Then in the next round, I won a feature match versus Bryant Cook off camera, which was a shame because it was a super interesting round. We talked about some of the decision trees after the match. And then I lost an off-camera feature match in round 4 to I think it's Jonathan Rousum. I think I've got that name right. I'm not 100% sure, though. Yep, Lord Darkview, that was me. Yeah, Rossum got me in one of my last leagues as well. If you play Grixis Control, you will beat the Dean. There he is! There he is! Alright, in before I take huge... Oh, nope. We just resolved our spell. Kind of just want to get Batterskull. I feel like this game's going to go long. I feel like since my opponent doesn't have threats, they probably have removal. So this Stoneforge is probably just going to eat it to some removal spell on their turn. And then we'll just hardcast this when we get to 5. All right. Note, if we get Force of Willed here, this is gonna sting. Wow, we have gotten so lucky. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and put in my Batterskull right now to play around a Stifle in case my opponent has that. All right. Yes, thank God we did not take 7 from the Temporal Mastery. So one of my local buddies, Connor McBroom, sorry, we just call him McBoom sometimes. He plays with Vile Smasher sometimes, and it is like a hell of a card for trolling people. Like, for those of you not familiar with what Vile Smasher does, whenever you cast your first spell each turn, choose an opponent at random, 2-player games, then it deals damage equal to that spell's converted mana cost to that player or planeswalker that player controls. So when you go and cast things like Gurmag Angler, Fire Blast, Force of Will, Temporal Mastery, it's just dumb. Since I have a second Flicker Wisp, actually, you know what? I'm just going to let these tick up. I'm not in any hurry here. So I'm going to let it go to my opponent's turn. Let them try to flip their Delver. A Thunderous Wrath. You put me into an interesting situation, opponent. Let's shuffle that away, shall we? Aww. Yeah, this is the real Miracles deck. Alright, opponent didn't shuffle. Opponent will indeed get to Thunderous Wrath, either me or my Stoneforge, out of existence. Yes, Grixis Miracles. Wow, that's an insane draw. I'm gonna get Sword of Fire and Ice with this first one. And then I'm gonna go ahead and just guaranteed get my value right now by flickering this out. And then I'll guaranteed get Jitte. So Army of Thalia, there are actually a lot of published Vial Smasher decks. They're not hard to find. It's not like it's regularly putting up results, but it's definitely a known quantity. Nuts. Yeah, I answered both of my opponent's Vial Smashers this game. Otherwise, I might have been in trouble. So if my opponent has a bolt, they need to bolt this right here. Ugh. Fire Blast the Flicker Wisp. That feels rough. And this is why I equipped the Flicker Wisp and not the Crusader. Oh yeah, Bosk, when you register Vial Smasher the Fierce, you know what your life is about. You know what you're here for. And I'm just going to Flicker Wisp out one of my Flicker Wisps in case my opponent has something that wipes the board. I don't think they will, but you never know. When your opponent is playing Vial Smasher. Ahem. As I was saying, I don't think my opponent has a sweeper, but just in case... we'll finish off my opponent here. Yes, Eric, I am a wizard. A relatively high level one at that. Hey Phil, walking in on this bullshit. Yep, pretty much. Static Rip, thank you very much for your continued support. I do really appreciate it. Yeah, that, like, if I didn't Flicker Wisp my Flicker Wisp, that bonfire would have been devastating, right? That would have been real good. Alright, it occurs to me that I should probably, like, pull up my data and log my Magic Online matches because I'm a diligent player and I've been doing that. Alright. So, D&T versus Vial Smasher. win, win. Essentially, both games, opponent doesn't stick a threat. King, I'm happy. Like, sometimes when you're writing a paper, you just kind of need to, like, sit there for a little while and let things percolate and kind of piece themselves together. And I'm glad I can be your distraction, inspiration, whatever exactly it is you need while you're doing some paper writing. For me, back when every Sunday used to be like SCG legacy coverage, that's what I would do. Is I would just like throw on the legacy coverage in the background, and I would do all of my lesson planning while watching legacy. I mean, the document I was writing about was originally in Latin, so basically, you're a great help. Thanks, Phil. This hand looks great. I will take a moment to see if I know what my opponent's playing, though. I don't. I'll keep this one. So, like, in terms of SCG's quality, like, I know darn well the quality of their stream and their coverage is, as a whole, much, much higher now than it used to be. They've done a lot of really wonderful things to improve their coverage over the last few years. But for me, that Legacy Open or Legacy Open or whatever it was, whatever they called it then, every weekend was just really something to look forward to and one of the highlights of my week. And that was my favorite time period of watching Magic. I was really, really heavily connected with the scene at that time. Decision point. I can either jam Thalia this turn and hope it sticks, or I can wait and put it in next turn. I think I want to wait and put it in. Just, it feels correct to do so with the rest of the composition of my hand. With these double recruiters, I'm really, really well off if the game goes long. And so I don't think I want to take a chance and like really hard lose out to a daze here. I think I just want to guaranteed deny my opponent mana on their turn, whereas Thalia might not. My gut says they're on Delver. I don't know if I'm right, but my gut says Delver. This is an interesting spot. I almost don't want to put in this mom. I'm not going to put in the mom. I'm going to give them the choice here. Yeah, whether or not they take the mom tells me a huge amount of information about their hand. So, for example, they took that Thalia over the mom, so I don't think they're a control deck anymore. I think they're a combo deck. So I think this might be something like Ant that's running Decays in the sideboard. Wrong. Okay. Well, there goes my thoughts. Alright. File's gone. But opponent doesn't have more lands. Yeah, I'm playing against a bug control deck. I can either just try to outvalue them with either Flicker Wisp or Jailer, or I can just get a Thalia and port them out of this game. Both strategies probably work about as well. I think I just want to get Thalia. It's irrelevant either way if my opponent has like another Thoughtseize or a Hymn or something like that. Bitter Blossom. Alright. Oh, oh, God. Just resolve. Just resolve. Come on. Come on. Oh, God, I feel so dirty. Note, this attack is, like, very, very free because I'm going to port my opponent's Bayou. So they're not going to get a chance to play a 1-mana removal spell. So not attacking with Mom would just, strictly speaking, be incorrect. Well, that's sweet. So hit my opponent to 9. Yeah, I'll swing at this Recruiter. I don't care if it goes. Yeah, I think my opponent is obligated to protect their life total no matter what here. Note that it's very possible that just like porting my opponent off of both of their mana sources is just better. Alright, so we're playing against some sort of bug control deck. So I probably want Ballista, Jailer, Gideon, Council Judgment, Recruiter, and double Rest in Peace. I probably don't want Swords to Plowshares, Sanctum Prelate. My opponent still probably has Planeswalkers. I probably want to cut some number of X1 creatures in case my opponent has Dread of Night. Might be comfortable going to 1 Revoker as a tutor target. So, JD, to kind of conceptualize it, Trample means you're doing so much damage that it goes through, it goes past, right? So Trample is kind of looking at its creature's toughness, and it says, how much toughness do you have? You get to block that much. The rest is just coming through. Boarding out a land is 100% reasonable. Wonder if that's correct. I'm boarding out 1 land versus Miracles and Grixis control currently. So it's probably fine to do so. And then I could keep Thalia 4. That's probably fine. While not a broken start, this is probably pretty good. Oh, geez. It's like actual factual shardless bug. I have to make a very important decision this turn. Do I want to try to gimp my opponent, knowing that they have an Ancestral ticking down? I think the answer is no. I think I want my mana because my cards are so good. Yes, Lord Darkview, I have absolutely zero regrets about dropping the Caracas. I was talking with Mike Derrickso this weekend, and he's like, all right, Phil, I know you're probably right. I know it's probably fine to drop that Caracas, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Horizon Canopy is a reasonable card if you're all right with losing life and it getting wastelanded and it getting back to basics. But I'm not really okay with those things. Hence why I'm playing just infinite basic lands. How many counters are left on this bad boy? 2 counters? My prelate's in the sideboard, right? That's a shame. So I could do something like Recruiter for Jailer, or I can just do the age-old favorite play of, let's jam Mirran Crusader and see if that works. The answer is usually, yes, that does work. So I'm just going to jam Crusader for now, and if I end up needing to Recruiter for something specific to deal with, you know, say a Jace or something like that on the other side of the battlefield, I'll have it. Vision's 1 turn away from ticking off. Oh man, more cards. Opponent's second Ancestral Vision is not going to be very good. They might actually have to discard some of those. That is a draw. That's a hell of a draw. I'm just going to get a backup Crusader here. So my opponent is going to draw up to 9 cards, draw a 10th card for their turn. If I just Wasteland my opponent here, I can take them off of green. They'll have 10 cards and probably 4 mana. If they deploy 3 1-mana cards, then they don't discard. But if they can't deploy 3 1-mana cards, I can just force them to discard. But I do have a lot to do with my mana, so that may not be correct. But it's what I'm going to do. No, I'm not going to take them off a blue to try to take them off of Jace. So, like, what I've done is guaranteed take them off of a color. If they draw Jace and their play for turn is Jace, that means they just discard a bunch of cards. So I'm not actually worried about that. TG Hondo, thank you very much for resubbing. Thank you for paying your monthly Thalia tax. I do appreciate it. So it feels like my opponent is about to deluge. So, since I'm pretty sure that's the case, I'm going to go ahead and save myself 2 points of life. My opponent can't remove this with removal anyway, unless they play Jace and bounce it, but then they just discard 2 cards. So I guess I'm fine with that overall. Yep, deluge for 2. No, Lord Darkview, I am still waiting to hear back from Twitch, unfortunately. There are a bunch of us with, like, partner applications pending. I think it's, like, me and Julian, and I think Jarvis, too. We're just kind of in limbo at the moment. It's been months since we've heard anything. It's a little frustrating at this point. Alright, opponent going straight into Fate Seal mode. Static Ripped, their post about the partnership application says that it usually takes about a week for them to review things. So I think they're just, like, super backlogged or something. I don't really know enough about, like, the back end of Twitch to know if that's actually true. But I think with how much Twitch has grown in the past few years, especially maybe even just in the past year, it might be getting to the point where, you know, they need to start being more picky about their applications because there are just more of them coming through or something. I don't entirely know. Pulse, target the Flicker Wisp. There goes the Batterskull. Well, that's a great draw. It means any threat is protected from Jace Bounce. Yeah, if I don't hear anything by the end of the month, I think I'm just gonna like shoot an email and just kind of say, hey, what's going on? Kind of looking for some answers. No, null rod is great. That's very good for my opponent. Oh wow, that is a spicy meatball. What a turn for my opponent. Shardless into null rod into Garruk. I think I get like one more turn to draw a very good card. That's about it, though. I'm already null routed. I don't really know why that needed to be decayed. All right, so I think I'm dead. I'm going to pass back for a couple of turns and let my opponent kill me because I want to see if my opponent has a card that deals with the graveyard to justify me having these Rest in Peace in the deck. Because in 2 games, they have not shown me something like a Tarmogoyf. I assumed they're in there, and my opponent did decay the Rest in Peace. But I'd really like validation of that. My opponent topped Palace Jailer. That's bad for me. Alright, again, my goal here is to get them to show me more cards. Dadzab, thank you very much for resubbing. I appreciate your continued support. It's helping me do what I love. Play more Death and Taxes. Hey, that's okay. Baltimore was really fun. I didn't do particularly well. I had kind of like middling results both days. But that's fine. Like, I had a blast. And I felt like the deck list I registered for that event, which was this deck list, was actually quite good. I mean, there have to be Tarmogoyfs in there, right? There just have to be. Oh man, that's awesome. Round 1 of the main event, the Red Prison guy. Of the classic. I see. Uh, What was he playing at the time? Oh, the Eldrazi and Taxes guy. Got it. Yeah. We had kind of a cool match. He was a little nervous at the start of the day, though, and he definitely dropped a card and got a GRB for looking at extra cards. So before the match started, he was picking up and he was shuffling my deck, and he dropped an Ether Vial. And he called the judge on it. So I was like, "Judge, I think I get a game loss." I just looked at a card in his deck, and I was like, "No, no, 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 no." And so the judge called him aside and kind of explained to him what was going on. And he actually offered to give me the play because he saw one of the cards in my deck. But I declined because, you know, Magic rules don't really require that, right? Like, he got his warning, that was his penalty for doing that. But I thought it was a really cool gesture of good faith. All right. So I want this other Evoker in here now that I know my opponent is playing Sharpless Bug for sure. And I don't know how I feel about second Rest in Peace. I've got to assume there are glyphs. No, they haven't showed me one. This is the sort of decision where if I'm wrong and my opponent is playing Goyf, I'm super punished for making this choice. I'm going to leave it in. At the cost of maybe being wrong, I'm going to leave it in. Yeah, basic planes. So the way that you view Rest in Peace in this matchup is that Rest in Peace is a removal spell for 4 Tarmogoyfs. It just, like, it hits the board, and it either requires the answer of a card, or it eats all of your opponent's Tarmogoyfs, their best threat. I'm going to play 1 and maybe regret it. Yeah, so my round 1 opponent there was traditionally an Eldrazi player, and the white Eldrazi was something he was giving a spin. I think he was relatively inexperienced playing with it. I think he said he didn't get to play as much Legacy as he really wanted to. But isn't that the case for everyone? Yeah, that's what happens when you play Eldrazi. You're just like, oh, God, don't look at me. Don't look at me. But Chalice. Oh, God, I love the Chalice. The Chalice is so good. The Chalice into the Thought Knot is life. Like, Eldrazi is a really powerful deck right now. Soldier's Stompy. The deck was a fucking mess. That sounds about right. Yeah, I understand. I played some of that too. So Aaron's, if you click on the Cardboard Live extension on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see the full deck list. And yes, that is accurate. I am playing 3 Chalice of the Voids. Stacks, you say? We're going to play some of that on Thursday, actually. I got a donation for Armageddon Stacks. Ooh, sword and Stoneforge? Rough. I can just jam Jailer this turn and start drawing cards now. But I think one of my opponent's best outs to this board is just a Toxic Deluge. And I'm going to try to keep them off of that. This also just takes them off of blue. Please don't him me. Shardless Agent into Uncastable Decay. What a shame. Well, this is going to feel pretty darn good. So this Jailer can't be countered with a Force of Will due to the Thalia. Yeah, that is the risk it for the biscuit chart, Shardless Agent, where you realize you're so far behind that you need to gamble. I sat next to Jody in the feature match area while that was happening. I think he mulliganed to like 4 or 5 or something stupid like that. And then I think his opponent did something similar the next game, and they just kind of had like 2 non-games in a row. Man, I'm being really bad about logging my data today. All right, that was a 2-1 versus Shardless Bug. All right, win, loss, win. Let's see, game 1 and 3 wins with Crusader. Game 2 lost to Double Ancestral. All right, Chad, I'll be right back. I'm out of water and I need to refill. Hello, I'm back. My name's Phil Gallagher, and I run Thraben University, a site dedicated to legacy death and taxes, and that is what we are playing today. We are currently 2-0 with D&T. This is the same list that I played in Baltimore this weekend. So we have some questions in the chat. What are people's thoughts on the Singleton Tombs and Ballistae main that I've been seeing? The Singleton Walking Ballista I've been playing in the sideboard, and I've been very, very happy with it. I would consider promoting it to the main deck. The Singleton Ancient Tomb is worth consideration. If you want to take a look at the Cardboard Live extension, if you look, you'll see that I'm playing a lot of white 3-drops. If you're playing more white and 2 colorless 3-drops, then then the Ancient Tomb in the main deck is noticeably better. So if you're playing things like Thalia Heretic Cathar, Eldrazi Displacer, Vryn Wingmare, then I think those Ancient Tombs will give you even more mileage. Wowen, yes, I did see the guy in the D&T Facebook whiteboarding his whole deck. That's not something that I want to do. I want to foreign out my deck, but I respect the dedication to it. There's a mono red prison player who has a white-bordered deck like that, and I have mad respect for that. Yeah, so it does cheat your Revoker into play sooner, but that's not necessarily good, right? Revoker is a card best played when you have more information. So turn one Revoker actually is a bad play in so many cases. Yeah, so my personal paper D&T deck is sort of a bastardization of languages. As a language teacher, I just really like having the foreign cards. I think it's neat. So I have some Chinese, some German, some Russian. It's just an eclectic mix. All right, so we're about to play the mirror. Fuck. This is bad. I don't think this hand goes anywhere in the mirror. I can't beat an Aether Vial. I can't beat a Stoneforge plus one other creature. Ugh. Oh yeah, I'm losing this game one. So my opponent knew that I was playing the mirror, so her hand is going to be fine for the mirror. Mine was not. Our opponent is a female, by the way, just in terms of pronoun usage. All right, not really sure why that needed to get pro-white there. Maybe my opponent thought I was flicking her mom. All right. Maybe she won't have more lands. Maybe I'll get a freebie. Oh, we'll waste that one too. Uh-oh. Yeah, I really love the storm planes, the lightning planes here. It is my personal favorite. Not close. All right, let's get her. Trying to get a free one. All right, we did not get the free one. But my opponent did draw all 3 Caracases, which is super unfortunate. All right, so my hope now is that my opponent just like messes out. Okay. This feels like an error to me. My opponent had a chance to just start winning the Jitte War this turn, and she didn't take it. So she could have just like bounced my Thalia, equipped Stoneforge, and attacked in. Or she could have wastelanded my Caracas, give the Stoneforge protection from white, swing in with the Jitte, and get 2 Jitte counters that way. Either way resulted in my opponent getting Jitte counters this turn, which I think is more important than, like, getting another piece of equipment. This first piece of equipment is just going to, like, win the game against my poor hand. I don't think playing this Flicker Wisp this turn accomplishes anything. So I'm just going to save it, and I can use it to, like, blink the Jitte and take some counters off of it. Nah, Hammer is just straight up bad. Probably unplayable in every capacity. Shapeshifter. I'm going to leave this Thalia on board. This Thalia doesn't actually do anything in the face of a Caracas. So if it actually just, like, eats a Jitte counter or 2 over the course of this game, I would be 100% on board with that. Yes. Yes, that is very accurate. The Hammer is a great card to play at your local FNM. Yeah, that's right. We're winning the Mana War. We're doing great. We are not doing great. All right. There is a Brightling. I don't really know what need there is to play that pre-combat. Think none. Alright, so D&T versus D&T. So game 1 loss. Alright, so game 1 loss on mull to 5. Alright, so I probably want Ballista, Council's Judgment Recruiter, Leonin Relic Warder, and we can consider some number of these cards as well. I don't want Thalia. I don't want Prelate. So normally what I've been doing is I think cutting 2 Mirren Crusaders and running like this. But Michael Bond seems to think that Jailer's very good in the matchup. I'm a little medium on it. But if I'm just kind of testing, let's test and see how good Jailer is. I'm not like super thrilled with it, but he seems to think that if you play Jailer and you trade the Monarch back and forth, that it favors the better player because you can leverage the resources better. But it kind of seems to me that like if there's a mom in play, the Jailer doesn't really do a lot, and it's just kind of awkward. Well, let's get some experience with that. Yeah, my experience in the mirror has been my opponent plays Palace Jailer, I took the crown and I won. That's been the case so many times when my opponent plays Jailer. But is that because Jailer's bad, or is that because I'm the better player, or like I leverage tempo better? Who knows? This is a rough hand. This is very bad. Like I have a Revoker for a Vial or a Mom and another one, but I'm gonna get like if my opponent has a Wasteland, I just get Wastelanded off my white, and this is kind of a 6-card hand already. So I think I'm gonna ship this one. This hand is also not particularly good. I am going to take that land. It will give me something to do with my mana on turn 2, guaranteed, and work me towards this Jailer plan. I am super mega boned if my opponent leads on Ether Vial this game. If she kept a 1-lander on the strength of this Ether Vial, and I pitched that Revoker hand, that's going to be super tilting. All right, chat, let's play along. What will Phil do this turn? If you guessed, get Revoker, and hope that Nurse Toki does not have both Mother of Runes and Stoneforge Mystic in her hand. You guessed correctly. Smash that revoke button if you can survive a turn 1 vial. Alright, so now she's in the position where she's going to try to port me and try to keep me off of this revoker. That is not going to work. Alright, don't have the Stoneforge, please. 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 This is not going to go well for you. Holy shit. So she shut off her own vials, so I didn't have to. Now this sets up my Paddleless Jailer to actually be good instead of basically unplayable. No blocks on the Containment Priest. That's fine. I will take 2. Port me? Yep, that's fine. That's fine. So an attack with a Revoker is free because if my opponent blocks with her mom, then my mom is live. I'm not 100% sure that that clicked properly. Interesting that my opponent did not wasteland me. I'm not going to read too much into that since she's a little bit mana screwed. And I don't want to attack with Revoker here. I don't want to turn her vials on by offering that trade. Drawing all of the cards seems okay. Recruiter's kind of interesting here because, like, Flicker Wisp on the surface seems really good to work as a removal spell when paired with Containment Priest, but she only has 1 white mana, and without, like, a 4th land or something, even a Walking Ballista isn't the greatest. So Stoneforge is sort of, like, reluctantly the best option available. I'm going to save this Revoker until after my opponent plays the Stoneforge, in case I need to, like, name something else, or in case this Containment Priest goes away. So I think I'm just going to plan on porting my opponent. No other action. Yeah, Eric, that's the plan. My own Stoneforge Mystic is pretty insane. So if my opponent doesn't port or waste me, I have Stoneforge, Jitte, Equip, attack in on my next turn available to me. Hello and welcome. I'm not exactly sure why she's not attacking with the Containment Priest. Like, yes, it's just going to die, but that turns on the Vials, and it seems like when you're choked on mana, getting your own Priest off the board seems important. Not wasting or porting me seems poor. So I'm going to go Stoneforge, Jitte, Equip, swing in this turn. I'll turn on the Vials, but start winning the equipment war. Is that fine? That's probably fine. I'm just, like, trying to think, is there anything that will, like, punish me severely? What if my opponent has, like, Wisp plus Jitte? Then they can get in the air. So okay, I think I need to play this one more patiently. In order to not lose for sure, I think I play out a second Revoker on Ether Vial. That way. She says, if my boyfriend is watching, tell him I'm sorry, lol. I know I misplayed hard. Okay. So let's start out like this. Let's play Revoker. Alright, and she scoops it up there. Yeah, so my line was going to be play Revoker, start attacking in with a couple of these creatures, play Stoneforge, search up Jitte, and then next turn get the Jitte counters after I've secured Vials as not being an out. This lets me port my opponent off of planes again if she doesn't port my port. Alright, so game 2, win with opponent's Containment Priest. This is why I am not a huge fan of boarding Containment Priest in for the mirror, for the record. Yeah, my hand was not strong. We won on the back of my opponent's creature there. 100%, my life was made significantly easier by her play. Like, her Containment Priest allowed me to shut off Mom effect getting like a pseudo 2-for-1 with my Revoker, and really buying me time to let my Recruiter of the Guard and Palace Jailer, my slower stuff, take over the game. I think if I'm going to play double Palace Jailer when I'm on the draw, I think I want another Path to Exile. It feels right to me. Path is awkward in the mirror. YOLO. This is one of those times where if my opponent has a Pithing Needle or a Revoker, she'll get a free one. Alright, if my opponent goes like land, Council's Judgment is vile. That's a little bit of a beating. I'm unsure what made her keep this hand if she doesn't have like initial early plays. Maybe she kept a very removal dense hand. That's going to be my guess here. Is that she's sitting on a bunch of things like swords, paths, stuff of that nature that is just not castable on the current board. She also might just naturally have like Jitte in hand or something. I will gain 2 life. No? What are you doing over there? You don't have a Wisp from my Vial, you don't have a Council's Judgment, you don't have a Stoneforge Mystic. Why did you keep this hand? I don't get it. Land. Yes. I'm not going to make an attack here. Maybe there's a Containment Priest waiting for me. That's why I didn't activate the Vial preemptively. Or I guess maybe if I had the read she had Priest, maybe I am supposed to attack in to see if she'll trade Priest for my Revoker, because that would favor me greatly. I think we're 2-0. Note, I think it is an egregious error to not Rashad import my planes. Potentially game-losing level of error. If I rip a white source and I get to Council's Judgment away this Containment Priest, I am taking over this game. Man, I really wanted that to be my white source to punish that line. All right, how much am I taking? 4, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This bodes poorly. But we'll play to my opponent messing up at this point. Okay. So, like, thank God my opponent just did an alpha. This means I have time. So I need to assume that I'm getting double ported. And if I rip a land, I can play a Ballista on 1 to get rid of the mom. Then I can try to, like, trade some of these bodies off. Or something. I don't really know that I can win. I'm going to take this block, though. Note that that's probably a waste of a Rishadan board activation. Since I can't really do anything with colorless alone, my opponent should wait and do this in the draw step. Not going to get punished here, obviously, because I don't have anything, but just to like throw it out there. Let's get her. I told her to make sure she watches the video later, and she says, "Oh my god, I can't. My friends are legit yelling at me. Thanks for the game, sir." Alright. Game 3, lost to Containment Priest. So note that even though Containment Priest did well in that game, I don't really think it's a good card for the mirror. I had a lot of draw steps to like just hit my white source to get rid of that Containment Priest and completely take over the game again. And if my hand was a little better, I could have just like wiggled through despite the Containment Priest pretty easily. But c'est la vie, so it goes. Oh no, my opponent's cool. I know her. I would like to play first. My opponent has played a lot of Grixis Control, recently Sneak and Show, and Eldrazi Post, so I don't really know what they're going to be on. This is kind of a medium hand. I'm going to keep it. If my opponent is on Post, I have a Wasteland. If they're on Grixis Control, I have a Mom to start things off, and a Wasteland. It's kind of medium. Blah. This is one of those times where I really wish this was a Rishadan port instead, but I'm still going to take the land while I can, not let my opponent potentially play like a 7-drop on their turn. So if you have a Vial on 2, yes, you can Vial in a Containment Priest. That's fine. If a Containment Priest is in play and you use your Vial on 2, you can activate it, but if you actually try to put something in, it will go to exile instead. All right, we got a free one with Wasteland there. No work required. All right, so D&T versus Big Eldrazi. Win. Game 1, win with Wasteland. All right, so versus Big Eldrazi, I'll probably want my Jailer, Council Judgment Recruiter, Relic Warder, and probably Path to Exile. Not 100% sure, but we'll probably bring these in. You want answers to the big idiots like Oblivion Sowers and friends. All right, what don't I want? Mother of Runes is 100% pointless. That's coming out. Sanctum Prelate's kind of awkward here. Like, you can put it on 7 or 8 to stop all his Dust or Ugin. And, like, that's cool and all. But if you name wrong, it's just bad. Or if they just have creatures, it's just bad. Like, sometimes this is just, like, Mise Me wins. But I'm not overly impressed with it. Gideon is a fine card as well. So I'm kind of inclined to cut this. Maybe I'll cut one of my pieces of equipment. I could cut like a Crusader and a Sword of Fire and Ice or something like that. And that'd probably be reasonable. I can also consider playing Gideon. Just because in the games that kind of stall out, it's really good against just like the big threats. Like if my opponent just plays like a mid-game Thought-Knot Seer or something like that, just like the 2/2 army's pretty good. Otherwise, like the turn after I play it, it just cracks for 7, which is a very swift clock. So it's something to consider as well. But if I play Gideon, I'd probably like trim 1 Stoneforge and 1 Thalia or something like that, and I just don't know if that's correct. Let's play this game out, just kind of sticking to creature-based threats. All right, this hand is great, and my opponent has taken a mulligan. This hand will fold a little bit to a Sorcerous Spyglass, though. Hey, chat, you remember that thing where I'm psychic? It's a blessing and a curse. Just wanted to let you know. I'm going to play the land that they don't know, just in case they have an opposing wasteland. Honestly, though, I'm somewhat happy that this didn't name Vial. This way, if I draw a port, I'm in super good shape. Or if I draw a Flicker Wisp. Oh boy. a lot of lines available this turn. I probably need to shut off this Thran Dynamo so my opponent can't play something absolutely absurd. And then on my following turn, I can tick Vial up, get a Flicker Wisp out Spyglass, Wasteland one of their lands. And if I dodge a big idiot that ends the game on that turn, then I probably win. Math Guy, thank you for that. Yes. You're 100% correct. All right. Here's opponent's big opening. That seems like an early concession, but I don't know their hand. Their hand must be very weak. All right, we're moving into the final match of this stream. Swaggohod. What do you play? It's Grex's control. I'm going to mull this opener, assuming my opponent is on Grixis control, and try to find something that's a little bit objectively more powerful. This one's not exactly what I'm looking for, but we can probably cobble something together. I think that first hand was just too slow if my opponent knows to lead on a basic, which, knowing the matchup, they probably would. Never mind. Oh, sweet, opponent's playing Delver. First hand would have been Stains versus Delver, whereas this one's very good. Alright, that was a Force pitching a Brainstorm. Let's see what's going on with this Delver. Blind flip to Force. Not bad. Ooh, Rug Delver. And a Goose. Alright, so I know my opponent has Force and Mystery card. Let's see if their remaining card is blue. Their remaining card is not blue. So that means they don't have Stifle. That means I can Wasteland them if I want to. but I think I want to resolve an Ether Vial while I still can. And then on my following turn, I can double Wasteland them. All right. Hard call. My opponent's card in hand is not Stifle. Now this is where I drop the Tabernacle and get him. Do I want to trade a Mom for one Mongoose here? I don't think so, right? Like, Mom can just, like, brick wall a Mongoose for the rest of the game anyway. And it just, like, makes every other card in my deck so much better. Now it's super awkward for, like, the Mongoose to attack. Alright, opponent has drawn out of the double Wasteland, but they don't really have gas. And again, since we're playing against the Stifle deck, we do Vial Bluffs. More Mongoose. Let's flicker out that Wooded Foothills, see if we can force my opponent to fetch now. I'm gonna go ahead and flicker out their Volcanic Island. This could end up like giving them one more mana effectively, but it will make it much safer for me to do some mid-combat stuff. If my opponent has a Stifle, I also just don't want to like target one of my things and then like not get one of my planes back, for example. That'd be super awkward. So I can either just like trade 1 for 1 here and block 1 and only take 3, or I can just like trade and soak up 3 extra damage. I think I'm fine with just trading 1 here, because like on every future turn, I'm going to have 2 moms available to me, and then the remaining 2 Mongeese don't do anything. So if my opponent has a bolt here, they will have an opportunity where they can actually bolt something. Nope. So see if this gets countered. Nope. I've got the ground pretty well on lockdown, so I feel safe attacking with these Flicker Wisp. Sure, that's a fine Stifle. Awesome. Now we can just cast and redeploy this. If my opponent wants to like daze this or force this, totally fine with that interaction. Now my opponent is facing down 2 different lethal threats, and my opponent can't kill me this turn under any circumstances. Alright, so we're playing against Rug Delver. And we win. So game 1 win with... Essentially, we won with Ether Vial. Like, there were other cards that mattered, but that was the big one that really let me pull ahead. So Lord Darkview, my opponent had 2 cards in hand at the end of my turn, one of which was a land. So I don't think that's happening. All right, so maybe this, I don't know. These are the for sure 6 coming in. These are things that I'd consider. I probably don't want Revokers. I don't want Prelate. Chalice is very cash money of me. I agree. Let's trim my recruiters because they're slow. All right, do I want to play the 4-drop against Rug? It's bad if my opponent is playing True Name. It's kind of bad against Mongoose, but it's good against Delver and Goyf. I don't know that this is reliable. This can be pretty risky. Maybe I want it when I'm on the play and not when I'm on the draw. Like, if I don't have tutors for this, this seems very mediocre. No, Turbojet. My 1-drops are just as good as their 1-drops, if not better, in terms of the matchup. So I don't think playing Chalice is going to benefit me. Hello, Potentia. Mulligan. And Potentia, thank you very much for your continued support. 4 months is quite some time. Helps me do what I love. Play Legacy. Oh man, an opponent mulled to 5. So I would be most scared of my opponent just like turn 1 blind Pithing Needle Aether Vial. Look at all these 1-drops I can actually cast off my 1 land. Please don't Needle Vial, sir or madam. Yeah, okay. So, like, Chalice of the Void is a super powerful magic card, right? And in a vacuum, generally speaking, Chalice is a card that is very, very good against Rug Delver. But in terms of this matchup, more generally, that's not necessarily true. The Chalices that are in the sideboard are not free, like they are in a deck like Eldrazi. I do not board in Chalice versus Death Shadow Delver. I do not board in Chalice versus any Delver variant. While my opponent doesn't have Stifle up, I'm going to go ahead and fetch a piece of equipment. And I'm going to fetch Sword of Fire and Ice. My plan is to go through the True Name Nemesis. The plan is tick up Vial, put Crusader in play, put Sword on Crusader, and just get him. I assume that's what a dying True Name Nemesis sounds like. Can't confirm. Yep, we're just gonna take this sword, and we're just gonna shove it right up in there. Right into that fish art. Alright. This turn cycle is going to be good for Phil fans. No, I'm going to do a more meaningful pump fake this turn. So while my opponent's thinking here, I do want to take a minute to thank my sponsors. So the good old Card Hoarder lets me borrow all of the cards for my stream for this sweet donation deck list that you all are having me do. Thursday's donation deck list is Armageddon Stacks, so that's going to be particularly awesome. I also want to thank Cardboard Live, who I'm absolutely in love with. Wilson Hunter's brainchild is, I think, really improving my stream experience. I'm just absolutely loving having to answer fewer questions about deck lists. I'm liking that when I'm playing spicy one-ofs or decks that you all don't know, that you can just scroll over them on screen. I also do want to thank Ethan S., who funded today's stream. Oh man, yeah, Card Hoarder does also have some sweet dice that they're giving away. If you go to their Twitter page, you can get entered into a chance to go and win one of their sets of dice. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Implying that the chat isn't perfect. Who do you think you are, Phil? Let's eat that, Crusader. Oh, nom, 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 nom. This is what some would call a beating in a dark room. Oh, congrats on finishing your endnotes. I know, like, that's such a tedious process. I've done plenty of that myself. I would assume that my opponent has something like an Abrade to answer this sword. Nope, I untapped. They don't have it. Either that or they're not playing around my Flicker Wisp. Get him! Get him! Oh god, is it just happening? Oh god. That's disgusting. My opponent says, I don't think I can beat you on 7. Definitely not on a Molda 5. So at this point, I actually don't know what my opponent could do to beat me. I guess they could, like, abrade. Abrade this and live. But I'll eliminate that line now. All right. Let me update my spreadsheet. All right, so win. All right, so game 2 win with SoFi and Crusader versus Trinium. So this was my SCG Baltimore deck list, and I really liked it. As you saw tonight, I feel like I have a very good mix of cards for various matchups. I feel like my in-out numbers work pretty well with this deck. We didn't really play against the decks that Chalice worked good against. So to recap, we played against Vial Smasher, Shardless Bug, D&T, Big Eldrazi, and Rug Delver, which are not necessarily like many of the like top decks other than D&T right now, but this is like the range of Legacy right now. It's very wide open. You know, Miracles and Grixis Control and are probably like the two like biggest decks to beat right now, but that doesn't mean that that's all people are playing. So that was a 4-1. We ended up losing the mirror, but otherwise we took down all of the others. So this is the deck list. I'm pretty happy with it. This is what I will be running back for my various paper events that I'll be playing in the foreseeable future. I do think there's some room for experimentation right now. Again, to kind of reiterate some things I said at the beginning of the stream, I think Cataclysm is a card that's definitely worth consideration. And I think trying to find cards that are good against both Miracles and Grixis Control that you can either shove into the main deck or sideboard, it's a good general life decision. Ah, well, sorry to ruin your 5-0, but it happens to everybody. You know, D&T versus Rug Delver is such a difficult matchup for you that, like, even if you were on a 7-card hand, it's still very, very difficult to beat. Pauper Fox, I did mediocre both days. I started off 3-0 on day 1 of the Open. I beat Rudy and Bryant Cook in feature matches, and then I lost to Jonathan Rowsome in my 3rd feature match of the day, and then I did not win any more games of Magic that day. I went like 3-0 into 0-4, and then I missed cash of the Classic on Breakers. I took like a round 1 or 2 loss in it wasn't round 2. I took a round 2 loss in the Classic, so my Breakers were terrible. So Potentia, so like if you're gonna board against Grixis Control with this, you play like all the super high upside cards. So you probably board in 10 to 12 cards. The rest in pieces are like maybes. So you board real hard for Grixis Control. And since you're boarding in these chalices, you end up boarding out like 8 of your 1-drops, which is a little weird because like normally Mom's good in this matchup, but you kind of approach it differently if you're playing Chalice. If you also beat Jarvis, that gets you into the finals, right? Pretty sure that's how that works, yeah. Poor Rudy. I got him real good. I didn't know he was playing Miracles until someone told me he was playing Miracles afterwards. Like, he never saw Terminus in 3 games. I kind of thought he was on some sort of brew, and that he was on, like, some sort of like blue-white or Esper deck that contained accumulated knowledge for value. Like I think it was games 1 and 3. I just kind of like skunked him good. Yeah, Hallowed Spirit Keeper is definitely a card that you can consider in this shell right now. The thing I don't like about it is I want my flex cards for versus control decks to be very good versus both Grixis Control and Miracles, which Hallowed Spirit Keeper is not. It's only good against Grixis Control. Like, most of your creatures go to either exile or back into your deck against Miracles. Oh, well, Popper Fox, welcome. Generally speaking, I am a huge Brightling fan. I love that card. It is fantastic against decks like Rug Delver, Red Prison, and Miracles. However, it's very poor against Baleful Strix decks, which are quite popular right now. So I don't think this is the right time for Brightling, but Brightling will come again. I can pretty much guarantee that. And so just in case you don't know about it, Popper Fox, I also run a website called Thraben University, to just self-plug for a minute, because that's what I do. It is the best D&T resource that is out there. It has all sorts of matchup primers. It has deck lists for you, breakdowns of various matchups. There is a link to it below the stream in case you are not familiar with it. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day here. So again, thank you to Ethan S. for funding this stream. I really appreciate it. And for those of you that are enjoying your content, please consider doing something to help support me. I've got a great donation queue. Feel free to follow, subscribe, donate to really help me improve this channel. I think we're coming a long way, and the last couple of weeks have been very, very good for me as a streamer, and I'm really, really thankful for the support. I really do appreciate it. So, here's our next 2 streams, folks. Overvoltage, thank you very much for throwing your Twitch Prime this way this much. I really do appreciate it. I know there's a lot of great streamers, and I know you're constantly hanging out with them, so it means a lot. Thank you, Mike. All right, so here's the next 2 streams for this week. So on Thursday, we are going to play Armageddon Stacks. I've got a really sweet donation deck list. I think I have it right here. All right, check this out. This deck list is beautiful, chat. A thing of absolute beauty. It has everything that I like. Chalice of the Void, check. 4 chokes, check. All my jimmies are rustled. The rest of the deck is irrelevant, but we have 4 chalices and 4 chokes. Game on. Thursday stream is going to be a lot of fun. Then on Saturday, I'm going to be playing with a Myth Realized Standstill deck, which I'm pretty excited about. Do I have that one queued up yet? No, I don't have that one queued up yet, but it should be good. All right, thank you very much, folks. I'm going to go ahead and call it a night. Oh yeah, Standstill. It's going to be awesome. All right, thanks everyone. Have a good weekend. Wait, it's Monday. It's not the weekend at all. Phil needs more sleep.